Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we will wander through the vast and shadowed corridors of Warhammer 40K. Our path begins with those who are perhaps the most iconic figures of this galaxy, the Space Marines, known formally as the Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's Angels of Death. The Astartes are not like ordinary men. They are created, not born. Each begins as a mortal child, taken from the harshest and most dangerous worlds of the Imperium. These worlds are chosen precisely because survival there demands strength, resilience, and a willpower beyond the ordinary. From these young candidates, only a handful will endure what comes next. Through a ritual both scientific and spiritual, they are remade. Organs are implanted, bones are strengthened, muscles rebuilt, and the mind itself reshaped into something harder, colder, more unyielding. From these trials emerges not a man, but something greater, an Astartes, built to wage war where mortals would falter. There are 19 implants in total, each with a purpose that is both practical and profound. Some organs repair wounds with unnatural speed. Others alter the blood, letting it clot instantly or carry oxygen in suffocating atmospheres. A secondary heart beats alongside the first, giving stamina that can endure battles stretching across days. Perhaps most unusual is the ability to spit a corrosive acid, a weapon hidden in the very body of the warrior. And last of all comes the black carapace, a sheath beneath the skin that allows the Marine to connect directly to his power armor. With this, his armor ceases to be equipment and becomes an extension of himself, as natural as his own flesh. Man and machine unite, a single being built for war. Yet these transformations come at a terrible cost. Many who begin the process die before it ends. Some fall during surgery, their bodies unable to withstand the changes. Others are broken by the relentless training. For every 1,000 candidates, only a handful rise to take the oaths of the chapter. Each Marine, therefore, is a rare and sacred miracle, a survivor of impossible trials, forged in agony and devotion. To see one is to stand before a legend, knowing that countless others fell before him. Once created, the Marine is no longer part of the world of men. His lifespan stretches across centuries. Where dynasties of human kings rise and fall, a Marine may continue, fighting war after war, watching civilizations collapse and rebuild. To ordinary mortals, he appears immortal, ageless, as though time itself has forgotten him. But for the Marine, each year carries memory. Battles accumulate like scars, not only on the body, but also in the soul. And though they endure, they are not untouched. Many Marines carry burdens of loss, of brothers fallen, of enemies that never seem to end. Immortal in body, they remain mortal in spirit, still able to feel sorrow even after centuries of war. The Space Marines are not one single host, but divided into 1,000 chapters, each containing about 1,000 warriors. Every chapter is unique, a small empire in its own right, with its own colors, traditions, and ways of war. Some follow discipline with the precision of a blade, like the Ultramarines, whose Primarch Roboute Guilliman laid down the Codex Astartes, a strict guide for how Marines should fight, organize, and live. Others are more savage, like the space wolves of Fenris, who hunt their foes with the ferocity of wolves beneath frozen skies, their culture filled with feasting and howling songs. The Blood Angels, noble and tragic, carry in their blood a haunting vision of their angelic Primarch's death, a legacy that drives them toward both greatness and madness. And then there are the Dark Angels, secretive and somber, cloaked in mysteries that even their own allies do not fully understand. To wear the colors of a chapter is to embody its history, to carry forward traditions older than most civilizations. A chapter is not merely an army, but a brotherhood bound by centuries of devotion. Their armor, too, is more than protection. Known as power armor, it is a relic of immense craftsmanship. Each suit is layered with ceramite plates and adamantium reinforcement, capable of withstanding blows that would obliterate a tank. Within, life support systems monitor the warrior's body, inject stimulants when fatigue rises, and recycle air in the vacuum of space. The armor even bears a machine spirit, a fragment of intelligence that must be honored with ritual prayers and blessings before each battle. Many suits are older than the warriors who wear them, passed down from generation to generation, repaired and reforged across the centuries. Every scratch and scar tells a story, a history written not on parchment, but in metal. To don such armor is not simply to prepare for battle, it is to step into a legacy, to carry the weight of ancestors and the memory of countless wars. The life of a Marine is not only that of a warrior, but also of a monk. Their fortresses are monasteries as well as barracks. Within them lie chapels, libraries, and halls of remembrance. Chaplains guide the brothers in prayer, leading them in litanies before battle. Librarians, who wield psychic powers, guard the chapter's archives, filled with the names of fallen heroes and the chronicles of ancient campaigns. Between wars, Marines do not rest in idleness. They meditate, train, and polish their weapons with ritual care. Some sit in silence for days, reciting the names of the fallen, as if speaking them aloud keeps the memory alive. Others walk the quiet halls of their fortress, lost in reflection. For them, every act is devotion, every preparation a prayer. Even in death, their service may not end. When a Marine is mortally wounded, but not wholly gone, his shattered body may be interred within a dreadnought. These colossal walking sarcophagi house the remains of heroes wired to engines of war. Within the machine, the Marine continues to fight, his voice echoing through vox speakers like the rumble of thunder across centuries. Some dreadnoughts have slept for hundreds of years, woken only in times of greatest need. To hear one speak is to feel the weight of history, as though the past itself has risen to battle once more. The weapons of the Astartes are as sacred as their armor. The bolter, most iconic of all, fires miniature rockets that explode within their targets, tearing apart even armored foes. But for the Marines, the bolter is more than a weapon. It is a relic, blessed with litanies, its machine spirit soothed with oils and prayers. Chaplains chant over the ammunition, whispering blessings as magazines are loaded. When the bolter roars in battle, it is not only the sound of war, but also the hymn of faith. Each shot is a prayer of devotion, each volley a chorus of loyalty to the Emperor. To ordinary humans of the Imperium, Space Marines are something both holy and terrifying. They stand taller than any mortal, their armor gleaming with symbols of faith. To speak to one is to feel as though addressing a living statue, carved from the Emperor's will. Some mortals fall to their knees in reverence, while others tremble in fear. Though they were once human, Marines now stand apart, their humanity distant, their loyalty absolute. And yet, they remain bound to mankind. They were created not to rule humanity, but to protect it, to be its shield in the endless night. The rituals of battle reflect this devotion. Before war, Marines gather in silence. They polish their armor, inscribe purity seals upon their weapons, and chant litanies. Incense may burn in some chapters, while others howl to the sky in fierce song. Yet always, the moment before battle is reverent, filled with quiet faith. When the order to advance comes, they march not only as soldiers, but as devotees entering a sacred rite. For them, war is prayer, and victory is worship. At the heart of every chapter's identity lies its Primarch. These were the 20 sons of the Emperor, each designed to embody aspects of his vision. Some Primarchs remain loyal, while others fell to betrayal. The Ultramarines follow Robout Guilliman, who returned in the modern era to lead humanity once more. The Blood Angels carry the legacy of Sanguinius, angelic and noble, slain at the Siege of Terra. The Space Wolves follow Leman Russ, fierce and untamed, who vanished into legend. To serve within a chapter is to carry the blood of a Primarch, to inherit not only his strength, but also his flaws. This bond is unbreakable, a connection that ties the Marine to his lineage across millennia. And so, the Space Marine lives a life without rest. From his transformation as a youth to his final battle, his path is endless war. There is no retirement, no gentle old age, only the battlefield, the fortress monastery, and the prayers whispered before combat. It is a life of devotion and sacrifice, a life that few would choose, yet one that defines the galaxy itself. In their endless vigil, the Astartes stand as humanity's eternal guardians, the angels of death who will never know peace. Beyond the silent fortresses of the Space Marines, humanity itself struggles to endure in a galaxy of endless war. Most citizens of the Imperium will never see a Space Marine, never glimpse the gold of the Emperor's palace, nor hear the whispers of distant stars. Their lives unfold within vast structures known as Hive Cities, towering metropolises of such scale that they defy imagination. To picture one is to envision a single city stretching so high it pierces the clouds, and so deep it burrows far below the earth, housing not thousands, not millions, but billions of souls. Entire nations could vanish inside a single hive and never be noticed. These cities are ancient, many standing for thousands of years, their foundations older than most histories. At their peaks, spires gleam in the sunlight, where the noble classes and planetary rulers live in relative luxury. Below them, descending level by level, the air grows heavier, the light dimmer, the walls more crowded. Industry fills the middle hives, where manufactoria thunder day and night, producing weapons, vehicles, and goods for the endless needs of the Imperium. Here, workers toil without pause, their lives bound to machines that may have operated for centuries, each cog and gear blackened with smoke and oil. Deeper still lies the Underhive, a world of shadows and ruin, where law has crumbled, and survival belongs only to the strongest. The Underhive is a realm unto itself. It is a place of scavengers and gangs, of strange cults and forgotten machinery. Many of its inhabitants will never see the surface, never breathe clean air, never look upon the sun. They live in half-ruined tunnels, trading scraps of food and water, worshipping idols built from broken technology, and whispering stories of monsters that crawl in the dark. It is said that whole populations have been lost there, swallowed by collapsing structures or devoured by creatures lurking in the forgotten depths. To be born in the Underhive is to inherit a life of struggle, and yet people endure, forming families, rivalries, and bonds of survival beneath the crushing weight of the city above. The sheer density of life in a hive creates its own kind of madness. Billions of souls packed into towers of steel and stone give rise to crime, disease, and unrest. The Adeptus Arbites, enforcers of imperial law, patrol the streets, their armor heavy and their justice swift. Yet even they cannot control the chaos entirely. In some hives, entire districts are effectively ruled by gangs, their banners painted on the walls, their colors displayed like heraldry. For the people within, these gangs are family, protection, and threat all at once. Loyalty is enforced by blood, and betrayal is punished with death. In such places, children grow up learning the signs of violence before they learn the words of prayer. And yet, despite the darkness, Hive Cities are the beating heart of the Imperium. From their endless factories pour the weapons of war, laser guns for the Imperial Guard, armored vehicles, shells for artillery, and supplies for fleets that sail the void. Without the hives, the armies of mankind would falter. Every rifle carried by a guardsman, every tank that rolls across a battlefield, was likely forged in the roaring furnaces of a hive. Each city is a forge world in miniature, a living machine that never ceases its labor. To the Imperium, the suffering of its people is a price that must be paid for survival. Hive cities also serve as recruitment grounds for the Imperial Guard. From the endless crowds, soldiers are drawn, trained, and shipped off to fight wars across the stars. To the Underhive dweller, conscription can be both a curse and an escape. Some see it as a death sentence, a guarantee of being thrown into the teeth of alien horrors. Others welcome it as freedom, a chance to leave the claustrophobic towers behind and see the galaxy, even if only briefly. For many, the Guard offers the only way out of the hive, though few return. Religion permeates every level of the hive. Cathedrals rise like mountains, vast enough to hold tens of thousands of worshippers. Bells toll across districts, their echoes lost in the hum of machinery. Priests walk among the people, leading them in endless prayers to the Emperor of mankind, who sits immobile upon his golden throne on distant Terra. For most citizens, the Emperor is not only a ruler but a god, the sole light in a universe of shadows. His image is painted on walls, carved into statues, and worn on amulets. Even in the darkest depths of the Underhive, where order has crumbled, whispers of his name linger like a fragile hope. Faith is the one constant binding rich and poor, surface and depth, in shared devotion. But the faith of the masses can also twist into something darker. In the shadows of the Underhive, cults grow. Some worship forgotten idols, others bow to the powers of chaos, their prayers directed not to the Emperor, but to the hungry gods of the warp. To the desperate, these cults promise food, safety, or purpose. To the ambitious, they offer power. And so, heresy festers beneath the surface, waiting for the right spark to ignite rebellion. Entire uprisings have begun in the Underhives, spreading like fire until the city itself trembles. When such insurrections rise, the Imperial Guard is often called to crush them, and blood floods the streets in the Emperor's name. The physical structure of a hive is almost beyond comprehension. Some reach so high that their uppermost spires pierce the very clouds, glittering like mountains of steel. Their depths plunge miles underground, into caverns where the earth itself groans under the weight. Whole ecosystems form inside them, mutant vermin, crawling insects, even strange forms of fungus adapted to the darkness. Rivers of sewage flow through broken pipes, providing water for the desperate. Entire communities live around such resources, their lives built on decay and ruin. For them, the hive is not a prison, but the only world they will ever know. Among the most famous hives was Hive Primus on Necromunda, a city so vast it seemed endless, Its spires rose like spears, while its underhives stretched into shadow without limit. There, gangs battled endlessly for scraps of territory, their wars as fierce as any fought by armies. Necromunda became a symbol of what a hive truly is, a world within a world, brutal, unrelenting, and yet alive with countless stories. It is said that in Necromunda, a man could be born, live, fight, and die without ever traveling more than a mile from his birthplace, and still never see the full breadth of the hive around him. Despite their decay, hive cities are strangely enduring. Some have stood for 10,000 years, weathering wars, bombardments, and even planetary cataclysms. Entire towers have collapsed, only for new ones to be built atop the ruins. Generations live and die in the rubble, never questioning the layers of history beneath their feet. In this way, hives are like fossils, recording the passage of time not in books, but in stone and steel. To walk their halls is to step into history itself, where every wall is a palimpsest of human endurance. The lives of hive dwellers are hard, but they are also strangely resilient. Amid the poverty, families still form. Songs are still sung. Markets bustle with traders selling food, tools, and charms. Even in the darkest places, children play among the ruins, their laughter echoing in the tunnels. Life continues, stubborn and defiant, as if the spirit of humanity refuses to be crushed, no matter the weight of the hive above. Perhaps this resilience is what keeps the Imperium alive, for though its people suffer, they endure, and through their endurance, the great engines of war keep turning. To imagine a hive city, then, is to imagine the Imperium itself, vast, ancient, brutal, and yet unyielding. Each tower, each underhive, each cathedral and factory is a fragment of humanity's grand, desperate struggle to survive. And in that struggle lies a strange kind of beauty, a testament to the will of mankind to keep breathing, to keep working, to keep believing, even in the darkest of futures. Beyond the crowded towers of the hive worlds lies the wider span of the Imperium itself, the greatest empire humanity has ever known, and yet also the most fragile. It stretches across 1,000,000 worlds, bound together not by prosperity nor by peace, but by faith, bureaucracy, and endless war. To imagine the Imperium is to picture a patchwork of planets, each unique, each isolated, and yet all claimed as part of a single dominion ruled in the name of the Emperor of mankind. It is a realm at once vast and suffocating, where to live is to be both protected and imprisoned by the weight of its institutions. At the heart of this empire lies Terra, the cradle of humanity, now little more than a shrine world. Once a blue planet of seas and green continents, it has been remade into a world of stone and steel. Its oceans are gone, its skies dark with pollution, its surface one continuous city. At its center stands the Imperial Palace, a construction so vast that its walls stretch for hundreds of miles. Within it rests the Golden Throne, where the Emperor himself sits in eternal silence. For 10,000 years, his body has endured, neither alive nor dead, sustained by ancient machinery and the sacrifice of 1,000 souls each day. To the people of the Imperium, he is a god, the light in the darkness, the one being whose will binds the galaxy together. The sheer size of the Imperium makes direct rule impossible. Instead, its power flows through the Adeptus Terra, often called simply the Administratum. This is the vast bureaucracy of humanity, a machine made not of gears and engines, but of scribes, clerks, and officials. Billions of them work ceaselessly across the galaxy, filling libraries with endless documents, recording every tithe of grain, every shipment of ammunition, every levy of soldiers. Entire lifetimes are spent drafting a single decree. Whole departments may take centuries to pass judgment. To those outside, the administratum seems absurd, but it endures, for without it, the empire would collapse under its own weight. Among the most vital of its functions is the imperial tithe. Every world must pay its due, whether in grain, ore, soldiers, or manufactured goods. For an agri-world, this means vast shipments of food. For a forge world, it may be tanks and weapons. For a hive world, it is often men and women conscripted into the guard. Failure to meet the tithe is punishable by censure, exile, or even extermination. Entire populations live only to feed this hunger, their work unseen but essential. And so the Imperium continues, fueled by sacrifice, its people bound by obligations they neither chose nor escape. The Adeptus Mechanicus stands alongside the Administratum, a power unto itself. Based upon Mars, they are the guardians of technology, though to them, technology is not science but faith. They worship the machine god, believing that every device houses a spirit that must be appeased. A simple engine requires oils and prayers. A starship must be sanctified with rituals before it sails. To the Mechanicus, innovation is heresy, for they believe that all true knowledge has already been revealed, hidden within the blueprints of the ancients. Their tech priests walk the galaxy in robes of red, their bodies more machine than flesh, their voices layered with metallic distortion. Without them, the Imperium would lose its ships, its weapons, and its machines. With them, it remains bound to the past, unable to advance, but unwilling to let go. Another pillar of imperial power is the ecclesiarchy, or Adeptus Ministorum, the Church of the Emperor. It is their priests who spread faith across the stars, their cathedrals that rise on every world, their sermons that fill the air with chants of devotion. To them, the Emperor is not merely ruler, but God incarnate, the divine protector of mankind. The ecclesiarchy organizes pilgrimages, inspires crusades, and enforces purity of worship. In their shadow walk the sisters of battle, the Adepta Sororitas, warrior nuns clad in armor who fight with bolter, flamer, and hymn. They are proof that faith itself can be a weapon, that belief can burn as fiercely as fire. Yet for all its grandeur, the Imperium is also a prison of fear. Heresy is punished without mercy. To question the emperor is to invite death. To speak of forbidden gods is to invite the attention of the Inquisition. This secretive order answers only to the emperor, and within it are countless factions, some stern, some radical, some cruel, some merciful. They root out corruption, hunt down witches, and burn away the taint of chaos. Their agents are feared everywhere, for an inquisitor may command entire regiments, order the execution of planetary governors, or even demand the extermination of a world. To meet an inquisitor is to stand before judgment itself, and few emerge unchanged. The Imperium's armies are legion. Beyond the Space Marines are the vast ranks of the Astra Militarum, known simply as the Imperial Guard. They are humanity's common soldiers, drawn from every world, clad in flak armor and armed with lasguns. Billions serve, dying in uncounted numbers, yet always replaced by more. Entire regiments are raised and shipped across the galaxy, fighting wars they cannot hope to comprehend. Some come from desert worlds and march with banners of sand. Others are born in icy wastes, their coats heavy with fur. Each regiment carries the character of its homeworld, yet all fight under the same banner. They are the flesh and blood of the Imperium, fragile yet countless, the tide that breaks against the enemies of mankind. Above them all stand the mighty fleets of the Imperial Navy. Their ships are Gothic titans, kilometers long, bristling with weapons, their hulls carved with statues and saints. To sail upon one is to live within a cathedral of steel, where crewmen labor in dimly lit corridors, chanting prayers as they work the engines. Battles in space are fought not with swift maneuvers, but with thunderous broadsides, like ancient sea battles magnified to cosmic scale. When two fleets meet, the void itself shudders under the fury of their guns, and always, the presence of the warp haunts them, the great ocean of unreality through which they must travel, where demons lurk and time itself bends. The Imperium is immense, but it is not united. Communication is slow, carried by astropaths whose minds are burned with psychic visions. Messages may take months or years to cross the stars, and in that time, worlds may fall, rebellions may rise, or fleets may be lost. To live in the Imperium is to live in isolation, to know that beyond the sky lies not a single unified empire, but countless fragments tied together by faith alone. The Emperor's light shines across them all, but its glow is faint, a candle in a storm. And yet, for all its cruelty, the Imperium endures. Its people pray, work, and fight without ceasing. They do not question, for to question is heresy. They do not hope for freedom is death. Instead, they find meaning in survival, in duty, in loyalty to a cause greater than themselves. In every hive, every forge, every battlefield, they whisper the Emperor's name, believing that their small lives are part of a grander purpose, and in this belief, they endure. The Imperium is a paradox, vast yet fragile, ancient yet decaying, glorious yet monstrous. It is the last fortress of mankind, holding back the darkness of a galaxy filled with horrors. Its people may suffer, its worlds may burn, but still, it survives. And as long as the Emperor sits upon his golden throne, silent and eternal, humanity will not surrender. Beneath the surface of the material galaxy lies another realm, stranger and far more dangerous than any physical world. It is called the Warp, or the Immaterium, an ocean of raw energy that flows alongside reality. To the Imperium, it is both a blessing and a curse. For without it, interstellar travel would be impossible, and yet within it dwell powers so terrible that even to speak their names is dangerous. The Warp is the great paradox of Warhammer's universe, the source of humanity's survival, and the source of its greatest doom. The Warp is not like the void of space, empty and silent. It is alive, seething, filled with tides of energy that move like storms across an endless sea. Time has no fixed meaning there. A ship may enter the Warp and emerge centuries later, though only weeks have passed within. Or it may sail for months and find that no time has moved at all. Navigators are required to guide vessels through this shifting sea. Born with the gift of psychic sight, they can sense the currents of the Warp and steer their ships by the faint light of the Astronomicon, the psychic beacon projected from Terra by the Emperor himself. Without this light, ships would drift helpless, lost forever in storms of madness. But the Warp is not empty. Within it dwell entities shaped by thought and emotion, for the Warp is the reflection of consciousness itself. Every fear, every dream, every rage and hope of mortals echoes within it, coalescing into vast beings of power. Over millennia, 4 such entities have grown until they became gods in their own right. The Chaos Gods, each embodying an aspect of mortal existence taken to its most extreme. Khorne, the blood god, is the embodiment of rage, violence, and war. His domain is rivers of blood and mountains of skulls. He cares not whose blood is shed, only that it flows, not whose skulls are claimed, only that they are taken. To his followers, battle is worship, and slaughter is prayer. His warriors charge into combat with cries of fury, their weapons drenched in gore, caring nothing for strategy or survival, only for the joy of killing. To fight in his name is to abandon restraint, to embrace the purity of violence. Slaanesh, the prince of pleasure, embodies excess, desire, and sensation. Born from the fall of the Eldar, Slaanesh thrives on indulgence without limit. To his followers, every experience is sacred, every pleasure a path to ecstasy. Beauty, art, music, and passion all belong to him, yet so too do cruelty and torment. For to Slaanesh there is no distinction between joy and suffering, only intensity. His demons are graceful and terrible, their forms alluring and horrifying in equal measure. To serve him is to drown in sensation, to crave endlessly, to never be satisfied. Nurgle, the Lord of Decay, is the god of rot, disease, and endurance. At first glance, he seems the cruelest of all, his gifts nothing but pestilence and corruption. Yet to his followers, he is also strangely kind. Nurgle teaches acceptance, the embrace of suffering, the endurance of despair. His plagues spread across worlds, yet those who survive find themselves stronger, more resilient. To his children, he is Grandfather Nurgle, offering comfort in the face of inevitable decay. His demons are bloated and jovial, their laughter echoing as they spread sickness. To follow him is to embrace the cycle of life and death, to see beauty in the ruin of all things. And last is Tzanch, the changer of ways, the god of sorcery, ambition, and change. His domain is knowledge, plots, and secrets, always shifting, always beyond reach. To serve him is to become entangled in endless schemes, for every victory is part of a greater plan, and every plan is but a step toward another. His daemons are creatures of fire and feathers, ever-changing, their forms twisting with every breath. To worship Tzanch is to seek power, but also to be caught in webs of fate that cannot be escaped. Together, these four gods embody the extremes of mortal existence: rage, desire, despair, and ambition. They are born from humanity and from all sentient life, yet they are also the greatest enemies of mortal kind. For through the warp, they reach into reality, whispering to mortals, tempting them, corrupting them. A man in despair may turn to Nurgle for comfort. A warrior may call to Khorne for strength. A dreamer may seek Tzeentch's secrets, and an artist may fall into the embrace of Slaanesh. Once given, such devotion is rarely taken back. Whole worlds have turned to chaos, their faith twisted from the Emperor to the dark gods. The warp is also the source of psychic power. Every psyker, from the weakest telepath to the mightiest sorcerer, draws their strength from it. But with this power comes peril. For every time a psyker opens their mind, the warp gazes back. Demons press against the veil, eager to slip through. If a psyker falters, they may be possessed, their body torn apart as a demon takes form in reality. For this reason, psykers are feared throughout the Imperium, hunted and tested, bound in chains and collars. Those deemed too dangerous are executed. Those deemed useful are sent to the black ships, to serve as sacrifices to the Emperor or as tools of war. Demons are the most direct manifestation of the warp's power. They are creatures of thought and nightmare, given form by the will of the Chaos Gods. Some are vast, towering beasts of fury, others subtle whispers in the dark, They cannot exist in reality for long without hosts or rituals, for their nature is unstable, tied to the tides of the immaterium. And yet when they do emerge, they bring ruin. Armies falter before them, cities collapse, and even the strongest of men may fall to despair. To fight a demon is to fight not flesh, but concept, rage itself, desire itself, decay itself given shape. Even the mightiest warriors are not immune. Many space marines themselves have fallen, seduced by promises of power or immortality. These traitor marines, once loyal servants of the Emperor, now serve the dark gods as Chaos Space Marines. Their armor is warped, their weapons twisted, their bodies reshaped by gifts both terrible and mighty. To face them is to face reflections of loyalty broken, brothers turned against brothers. The long war they wage has lasted 10,000 years, and it shows no sign of ending. The warp also affects travel. Ships that pass through it may emerge in unexpected places or at unexpected times. Entire fleets have vanished into storms, their fate unknown. Others have returned centuries later, crew aged only days, their world long forgotten. Sometimes ships re-emerge changed, their hulls warped, their crews mutated. Such vessels are burned on sight, their corruption too deep to cleanse. Yet for all its danger, the warp remains essential. Without it, the stars would be forever beyond reach, and the Imperium would wither into fragments. For ordinary people, the warp is distant, a thing heard of only in whispers, but its influence touches all. Every superstition, every charm against evil, every prayer muttered in fear is a shield against the warp. For they know, even if they cannot name it, that beyond reality lies something hungry, something watching. To live in the Imperium is to live with the knowledge, half suppressed, that the darkness between the stars is not empty, but alive. Thus the warp is both lifeline and doom. It is the road that binds the Imperium together, and the storm that threatens to tear it apart. It is the sea in which demons swim, the canvas upon which gods paint, and the mirror of mortal thought itself. To gaze too long into it is madness. To ignore it is death. It is the ever-present shadow, the eternal reminder that in the grim darkness of the far future, nothing is safe, not even the soul. Beyond the boundaries of the Imperium, and often within its very heart, exist the Xenos, alien races both ancient and young, each with their own history, their own hungers, and their own place in the endless wars of the galaxy. To the Imperium, all Xenos are enemies, to be purged or enslaved, for mankind tolerates no rivals. Yet in truth, the galaxy is filled with these species, each as complex and as tragic as humanity itself. To drift into their stories is to see the galaxy from other eyes, to glimpse how many paths life has taken among the stars. The oldest and perhaps most tragic of the Xenos are the Eldar. Once their empire spanned the galaxy, shining brighter than humanity could ever dream. Their mastery of science and sorcery was unmatched. They sculpted worlds to their liking, crafted weapons that sang with psychic energy, and traveled the stars as easily as walking from one room to another. Yet their greatness became their downfall. In their pursuit of ever greater pleasure and excess, their society fell into decadence so deep that it tore reality apart. From their collective corruption was born a god, Slaanesh, the chaos power of excess. Its birth screamed across the galaxy, annihilating most of the Eldar in a single instant. Their empire was shattered, their worlds destroyed, and their souls forever cursed. Those who survived became wanderers, divided into three main paths. The craft world Eldar fled aboard vast starships the size of continents, each a self-contained world drifting through the void. These craft worlds preserved fragments of their old culture, but in strict, ascetic form, each Eldar binding themselves to a chosen path, of the warrior, the artisan, the seer, to protect against the excess that once destroyed them. They are a people both proud and haunted, wielding weapons of grace and precision, yet carrying endless sorrow. Another branch are the Dark Eldar, or Drukhari, who took a darker road. They retreated into the hidden city of Kamara within the Webway, where they indulge in cruelty and excess as their ancestors once did. But unlike their forebears, they do so with purpose, for they must consume the suffering of others to stave off the hunger of Slaanesh. Their raids are infamous, swift strikes from the shadows, stealing entire populations to feed their endless thirst. To be captured by the Drukhari is to face torment beyond imagination, for to them, pain is sustenance. The third group are the Harlequins, wandering performers and warriors who follow the laughing god, Segurach. They move through the Webway, appearing suddenly on battlefields to strike against foes of the Eldar. They are tricksters and killers, dancers who fight with deadly grace, their every motion part of a grand performance. To them, life and war are both theater, each battle a play in which they embody myth and legend. Few understand them, and fewer still survive encounters with their dazzling blades. If the Eldar embody tragedy, then the Orcs embody brutal simplicity. They are perhaps the most widespread species in the galaxy, for they are not merely a people, but a force of nature. Orcs live for war. To them, battle is joy, conflict is purpose. Their society is crude but effective. They fight, they grow stronger, and they spread. Orcs are born from spores, each battle seeding more of their kind. The greater the war, the greater their numbers. To an orc, nothing matters but the next fight, and the bigger the fight, the better. Yet behind their brutish laughter lies strange genius. Orc technology should not function, and yet it does. Their guns fire because they believe they should. Their ramshackle vehicles roar across battlefields, defying logic. It is as though reality itself bends to their collective will. And so the Orcs endure, unending, unstoppable, always ready to turn any world into a battlefield. To the Imperium, they are pests, yet also one of the greatest threats. For when Orcs gather in great numbers, they form wars, vast crusades of destruction that sweep across star systems, leaving only ruin in their wake. Another ancient race are the Necrons, whose origins stretch back millions of years. Once they were mortal, fragile beings known as the Necrontire, cursed with short lives beneath harsh suns. In their bitterness, they waged war against the Old Ones, the first great civilization of the galaxy. To gain power, they struck a bargain with star-born entities called the Citan, who devoured their souls and placed their consciousness into bodies of living metal. Thus were born the Necrons, eternal and merciless, exchanging flesh for immortality. For eons, the Necrons ruled the galaxy, their armies unstoppable. Yet eventually, they betrayed even the Citan, shattering those star gods into shards to wield as weapons. Then they fell into slumber, retreating into tomb worlds beneath the surface of countless planets, waiting for the galaxy to grow quiet once more. In the current age, many of these tombs awaken. Cold legions march again, their weapons reducing foes to dust in an instant. To fight the Necrons is to face death itself, unyielding and endless, guided by minds as ancient as the stars. Not all Xenos are ancient. The Tau, by comparison, are young, barely a few thousand years into their expansion. They are a species of progress and ambition, guided by a philosophy they call the greater good. To them, all beings should work together in harmony, each caste fulfilling its role. Warriors, workers, thinkers, leaders, all united for the collective. The Tau believe they bring enlightenment, and they spread their empire with both diplomacy and conquest. Worlds that join willingly are welcomed as allies. Those that resist face the firepower of advanced weapons and disciplined armies. To the Imperium, the Tau are heretics, their philosophy a blasphemy against the Emperor's dominion. Yet compared to the horrors of chaos, the Tau offer something strange: hope. Their empire is small, fragile compared to humanity's, yet it grows swiftly. They field battlesuits of gleaming armor, fleets of advanced starships, and armies guided by unity of purpose. Some humans even defect to their cause, seeing in the greater good a vision brighter than the grim oppression of the Imperium. Scattered among the stars are countless other species. The Tyranids, vast swarms from beyond the galaxy, consume all in their path, devouring entire worlds to feed their hive fleets. They are not individuals, but parts of a greater whole, directed by the hive mind. To face them is to face hunger incarnate, endless and alien, a tide of claws and teeth that never ceases. There are also smaller species: the Kroot, mercenary hunters allied to the Tau; the Hrood, creatures of entropy that warp time around them; the Rockgol, feral marauders from the void, and many more. Each corner of the galaxy holds its own predators, its own dangers. To the Imperium, all these Xenos are to be destroyed. Official doctrine declares them abominations, threats to humanity's survival. Yet the truth is more complex. The Imperium cannot destroy them all. Sometimes uneasy truces are made, temporary alliances in the face of greater threats. And sometimes simple necessity forces mankind to coexist, however briefly, with those it calls alien. What unites all these races, whether ancient like the Eldar and Necrons, brutal like the Orcs, ravenous like the Tyranids, or idealistic like the Tau, is that they remind us of the scale of the galaxy. Humanity is not alone. It is one among many, struggling for survival in a cosmos where every star may hide a rival, every shadow may conceal a threat. The galaxy is vast, and in its darkness, every race, every people wages its own war to endure. And so, as we drift through these stories, it becomes clear that the Imperium's hatred of the alien is both cruelty and necessity. For the galaxy is too full, too dangerous, too hostile for peace. There is only war, and in that war, humanity is but one voice among many, crying out in the void. At the heart of the Warhammer universe lies the Imperium of Man, an empire so vast and so ancient that it defies comprehension. It stretches across 1,000,000 worlds, its banners raised on planets of ice and fire, desert and ocean, hive and fortress. It is humanity's shield against the darkness of the galaxy, and yet it is also its prison. To live within the Imperium is to live under the weight of tradition, faith, and fear. It is the greatest empire ever known to mankind, and yet it teeters always on the brink of collapse. The Imperium was forged by the Emperor of mankind during the Great Crusade, a golden age when humanity was united beneath one banner for the first and only time. Before this, mankind had been scattered, isolated by warp storms and crippled by the long night of technology's decline. The emperor rose with his armies of genetically engineered warriors, the Primarchs and the Space Marines, and he brought countless worlds back into the fold. His vision was not of faith, but of reason, of science and progress. He sought to build an empire of unity, free from superstition and fear. But that dream died in the fires of betrayal. The Horus heresy shattered the emperor's plans, leaving him broken and interred upon the golden throne. In his absence, his imperium twisted. What had been meant as a rational empire became a theocracy. The emperor, once a man of flesh and blood, became the god-emperor in the eyes of his subjects. His word, once delivered through reason, became scripture. His throne, once a seat of command, became a shrine. And so the imperium hardened into something paradoxical, vast and mighty, yet fragile, enduring yet stagnant. The structure of the imperium is as immense as its scale. At its center lies Terra, Holy Terra, the birthplace of humanity and the seat of the emperor. It is no longer a cradle of life, but a world entirely consumed by city, a planet-spanning hive whose spires reach into the clouds and whose depths descend into darkness. Billions live upon it, serving as priests, scribes, warriors, or slaves, each a cog in the machinery of empire. At its heart, the golden throne sustains the emperor, his will radiating as the Astronomicon to guide ships across the warp. Around Terra stretches the segmentum solar, the core of the imperium's authority. Beyond it, the galaxy is divided into 5 great segmenti: Solar, Obscurus, Tempestus, Pacificus, and Ultima. Each is vast beyond imagining, containing countless systems and worlds. Each is overseen by lords and governors, but all bow ultimately to the high lords of Terra, who rule in the emperor's name. The Adeptus Terra, or the priesthood of Earth, administers this empire. It is not a single body, but a labyrinth of organizations. The Administratum, which records and taxes. The Astra Militarum, which wages the emperor's wars. The Adeptus Mechanicus, which preserves and worships technology. The Adeptus Ministorum, which spreads the faith of the emperor, and countless others. Each has its own traditions, its own hierarchies, its own rivalries. Together they form the machinery of rule, though often more concerned with survival and power than with the welfare of their subjects. For the ordinary citizen, life in the imperium is harsh. Most are born into toil and die without ever seeing the stars. On hive worlds, they labor in endless factories, producing weapons and goods for the wars of the imperium. On agri-worlds, they farm fields that stretch to the horizon, their crops feeding billions elsewhere. On mining colonies, they dig deep into stone and ice, their lives measured in ore. Few ever see more than their homeworld. Fewer still rise above the station into which they were born. Yet for all its cruelty, the Imperium offers protection of a kind. Its armies stand between humanity and extinction. Its fleets patrol the void. Its tithe system, demanding men, material, and faith from every world, ensures that each planet contributes to the survival of all. To refuse the tithe is heresy. To resist the Imperium is rebellion, and rebellion is met with fire. Entire worlds have been scoured of life for daring to deny the Emperor's will. The faith of the Imperium is both its strength and its weakness. The Ecclesiarchy, or Adeptus Ministorum, teaches that the Emperor is a living God, watching over his people even as he sits upon the golden throne. His words, though silent, are carried by priests and confessors, by missionaries and crusaders. Cathedrals rise upon every world, their spires towering above the cities, their bells tolling the litany of the emperor. For the faithful, every act is devotion, work is prayer, obedience is sacrifice, and war is holy. This faith unites billions, giving purpose to lives otherwise crushed beneath oppression. It steels soldiers in battle, drives martyrs to sacrifice, and rallies worlds to resist chaos. Yet it also blinds, for reason and doubt are heresy. Science is forbidden if it strays beyond the sanctioned knowledge of the Mechanicus. Questioning the emperor's divinity is punishable by death, and so the Imperium endures, not because it adapts, but because it refuses to change. The military power of the Imperium is vast. The Astra Militarum, once known as the Imperial Guard, fields countless regiments, each drawn from different worlds. Some are disciplined and uniform, like the Cadians, drilled from birth to fight. Others are savage and irregular, like the Catechans, jungle fighters hardened by endless danger. Each regiment is but a drop in the ocean, yet together they form an army that spans the stars. They are the hammer of the Imperium, countless soldiers standing against threats that would annihilate lesser empires in an instant. Alongside them fight the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, whose legends we have already whispered of. They are few in number compared to the Guard, yet their presence can turn the tide of battle. Where regiments falter, Space Marines strike with precision. Where armies struggle, a single company may achieve victory. Together, these forces ensure that the Imperium survives, though never without cost. Other arms of the Imperium's defense include the Imperial Navy, whose fleets patrol the void, and the Inquisition, whose agents hunt heresy wherever it may be found. The Inquisition is feared above all, for its authority comes directly from the Emperor. Its agents may order the death of worlds if corruption is deemed too deep to cleanse. They answer to no one but the Emperor himself, and their word is law. To be a citizen of the Imperium is to live in fear, but also in certainty. The galaxy is vast and hostile. Enemies press from every side. Chaos, orcs, Tyranids, Eldar, Necrons, and countless more. Survival is only possible because of the Imperium's unyielding grip. Freedom is sacrificed for safety, choice for survival. It is a grim trade, but one that humanity has long accepted. And yet, within this empire, there are sparks of humanity. Families labor together. Children play in the shadow of factories. Lovers find moments of joy in the midst of hardship. Faith binds communities, and even the smallest lives have meaning within the great machinery of empire. To outsiders, the Imperium may seem monstrous, but to those within it, it is home. And perhaps that is its greatest strength, not its armies nor its faith, but the resilience of its people who endure without end. The Imperium is both fortress and prison, salvation and damnation. It is a monument to humanity's survival and to its failure. It stands as a beacon in the night, yet also as a warning, for in the grim darkness of the far future, the Imperium is all mankind has, and perhaps all it deserves. Among the many arms of the Imperium, two stand out as both mysterious and feared: the Inquisition and the Adeptus Mechanicus. They represent two pillars of power that reach into every corner of the galaxy, each serving the Imperium, but also pursuing their own paths, often hidden from the gaze of ordinary citizens. To whisper of them is to touch the deeper mysteries of the Imperium, secrets of faith, of corruption, and of the ancient machines upon which mankind depends. The Inquisition is unlike any other institution. It is not bound by the High Lords of Terra, nor by the strict hierarchies of the Adeptus Terra. Its mandate comes directly from the Emperor himself. or so it is said. Its task is simple in description, but endless in scope: to safeguard humanity against all threats, both within and without. In practice, this means the Inquisition may act with near limitless authority. An inquisitor may command regiments, order executions, demand resources, or even call for exterminatus, the total destruction of an entire world, if it is judged too corrupt to save. The motto of the Inquisition is "Innocence proves nothing." To them, suspicion is enough. A whispered rumor of heresy may be cause for investigation, a shadow of corruption enough to warrant interrogation. To be accused is to be guilty in the eyes of many inquisitors, for better to burn one innocent than to let a single heretic go free. And yet within the Inquisition, there are divisions. Three great ordos dominate their structure. The Ordo Hereticus concerns itself with the enemies within: cults, traitors, witches, and heretics who fester in the Imperium's shadows. Their agents root out corruption in the ecclesiarchy, suppress uprisings, and oversee the trials of psychers. To face the Ordo Hereticus is to face fire and chains, for their judgment is swift and merciless. The Ordo Xenos turns its gaze outward to the alien races that press upon humanity from all sides. They study the Eldar, the Orcs, the Tyranids, and all others, learning their ways not out of curiosity, but out of necessity. Their goal is extermination, but also prevention, ensuring that alien infiltration does not take root within the Imperium. Some Ordo Xenos inquisitors even employ alien weapons or allies in secret, walking a dangerous path of pragmatism against doctrine. The third great branch is the Ordo Malleus, the hunters of demons. They face the warp directly, standing against the incursions of chaos. To fight such enemies, they command the Grey Knights, a chapter of Space Marines whose very existence is cloaked in secrecy. Clad in silver armor and armed with weapons of psychic might, the Grey Knights are said to be incorruptible, their very names hidden to protect them from the demons they hunt. To the common citizen, they are myths. To those who have seen them, they are saviors, or omens of doom. Beyond these great ordos, there are countless smaller ones, each focused on narrower threats: technology, relics, lost knowledge, or political stability. The Inquisition is not one, but many, each inquisitor a power unto themselves. Some are Puritans, destroying all they deem dangerous. Others are radicals, using forbidden tools in the name of humanity's survival. Between them, endless debates and wars of shadow rage. Their battles fought not with armies, but with assassins, secrets, and lies. To be chosen as an inquisitor is to carry unimaginable power, but also unimaginable burden. Many go mad beneath the weight of their duty. Some vanish into the dark, pursuing enemies no one else believes exist. Others rise to heights where they can change the fate of entire sectors. And always, behind them, the people fear. For when the Inquisition comes, it does not come to save, it comes to judge. If the Inquisition is the blade in the shadows, the Adeptus Mechanicus is the beating heart of the Imperium's survival. For while the Imperium may rule in the Emperor's name, it cannot endure without the machines that carry it through the stars. Starships, weapons, armor, factories, cities, all depend upon the Mechanicus, the priesthood of Mars, who alone preserve the mysteries of technology. The Adeptus Mechanicus is both ally and separate power. Their homeworld is Mars, twin to Terra, yet distinct. From there they spread across the galaxy, establishing forge worlds, each a planet given over entirely to industry and the worship of the machine god. To the Mechanicus, machines are not tools but sacred beings, each with a spirit that must be honored. To repair a weapon is to perform a rite. To start an engine is to chant a prayer. Technology is not understood in the sense of innovation, but in the sense of faith, its secrets preserved in rituals passed down through millennia. The creed of the Mechanicus is simple. Knowledge is divine. The machine god is truth, and the Omnissiah, the living embodiment of the machine god, is none other than the Emperor himself, or so most believe. Some sects argue otherwise, but such debates are buried beneath the chants of forges and the hammering of titanic engines. Tech priests of the Mechanicus are strange figures. They begin as human, but through endless augmentation they shed flesh for metal. Arms are replaced with servo limbs, eyes with lenses, voices with vox synthesizers. To them, the human body is weakness, and the machine is perfection. On Forge worlds, entire populations live in service to these priests, laboring in vast manufactoria where titans are constructed and starships birthed. The Mechanicus guards its knowledge jealously. To invent new technology is heresy, for only the machine god grants knowledge. Instead, they preserve and replicate ancient designs, many dating back to the dark age of technology, a time when humanity's power rivaled even the Eldars. Much of that knowledge is lost, locked away in vaults, or corrupted by war. What remains is treated with reverence. A bolter is not simply a weapon. It is a relic, its machine spirit temperamental, its use preceded by blessings. Yet for all their reverence, the Mechanicus is indispensable. Without them, the Imperium would collapse. They build the ships that sail the stars, the tanks that thunder across battlefields, the titans that stride like gods of war. They preserve the Astronomicon, maintain the Golden Throne, and keep alive the very machinery of the Emperor's rule. And so, though their ways are strange, the Imperium accepts them, for without their labor, there would be no survival. Still, tensions exist. The Mechanicus is loyal to the Emperor, but not always to Terra. Their forge worlds are semi-independent, ruled by their own fabricator generals, bound to Mars as much as to the Imperium. Their fleets, known as the Tagmata, can rival those of entire sectors. When Mars speaks, the Imperium listens, for it has no choice. And yet, despite this power, the Mechanicus rarely seeks political control. Their concern is not governance, but knowledge, relics, and the endless worship of the machine. Perhaps the strangest aspect of the Mechanicus is their quest for the standard template constructs, or STCS. These ancient machines once held the sum of humanity's knowledge, able to create any technology needed. Most are lost, destroyed in wars long past. Fragments survive, and each fragment is priceless. Entire wars have been fought for the recovery of a single STC printout, for within it lies the promise of weapons, machines, and knowledge unseen for millennia. To the Mechanicus, such relics are scripture, holy beyond words. Together, the Inquisition and the Mechanicus form two of the most powerful forces in the Imperium. One watches humanity itself, rooting out corruption. The other watches its machines, preserving survival. Both are feared, both are respected, and both remind us of the strange duality of the Imperium, that it is a place where faith and fear rule above reason, where even technology is worshipped, and where knowledge and power are inseparable from belief. In the end, these institutions endure because they must. The galaxy is too vast, too hostile, too unrelenting for humanity to survive without them. The Inquisition protects the soul, though at great cost. The Mechanicus protects the body, though at the price of understanding. And so, humanity lurches forward, half blind, half broken, yet still enduring. To understand the Imperium is not only to look at its armies, its priests, or its inquisitors, but also to look at the lives of the countless billions who make up its population. For in truth, the Imperium is not defined by the power of its lords, but by the sweat, the toil, and the prayers of its common citizens. They live and die on worlds beyond number, each planet unique, yet bound together by the same faith, the same tithe, and the same endless cycle of struggle. The most iconic of these worlds are the Hive worlds. These planets are consumed entirely by city, layer upon layer of metal, stone, and ruin piled high until spires reach into the sky like mountains. In the depths, darkness reigns. Entire populations live in squalor, never seeing the sun, their lives filled with smoke, dust, and ceaseless labor. Factories thunder without pause, producing weapons, ammunition, and goods to feed the Imperium's endless wars. The air is heavy with ash. To be born in the Underhive is to know hunger, violence, and despair. And yet even here, life continues. Families form, communities cling to existence, and in the darkest corners, strange cultures and gangs thrive. Rival clans battle for scraps of territory. Mutants lurk in the shadows, their twisted forms the result of warp, taint, or pollution. Cults whisper promises of salvation, whether through chaos, alien idols, or the Emperor's more radical prophets. For many in the Underhive, survival itself is a victory. Above them, in the Midhives, life is somewhat brighter. Here, industry is less oppressive, and guilds rule the economy. Workers labor in better conditions, though still harsh, and petty nobility control resources with greed and corruption. At the highest levels are the spires, where the true nobility dwell in luxury. They look down upon the billions below as insects, even as their wealth is built upon the toil of the Underhive. Entire dynasties thrive in these heights, some with power equal to planetary governors, their palaces filled with relics, artworks, and finery. Hive worlds are the engines of the Imperium. Their populations provide endless manpower for the Astra Militarum. Their factories produce arms that flood battlefields across the galaxy. But their scale comes at a cost. Billions live and die without hope, their lives counted only in the tithes they fulfill. And yet, despite this, they endure. The Hive is not just a city, but a world entire, its rhythms as vast and eternal as the tides of an ocean. Contrasting with these industrial giants are agri-worlds. These planets are dedicated entirely to farming, their fields stretching for thousands of kilometers, their skies filled with the hum of harvest machines. Unlike Hive worlds, their populations are sparse, often no more than a few million, spread across great estates or villages. Their sole purpose is to produce food, grain, meat, fish, or crops, shipped in endless convoys to feed the Hive worlds and the armies of the Imperium. Life on an agri-world may seem idyllic compared to the suffocating crush of a hive. The air is clean, the land fertile, the seasons familiar. Yet the burden of the tithe weighs heavily here as well. When quotas are not met, punishments are swift and brutal. Imperial overseers watch carefully, and rebellions are rare, for they are crushed quickly. Still, on quiet nights, farmers may look at the stars and dream, even as their labor feeds wars light years away. There are also forge worlds, domains of the Adeptus Mechanicus. These planets are dominated not by cities or fields, but by vast manufactoria, endless foundries, and titanic machines. Their skies glow with the fires of forges, their land scarred by mines and refineries. Entire continents may be consumed by production, every inch devoted to the machine god's work. Life here is strange, for the population is often half machine, their lives dedicated to serving the tech priests. Rituals replace science, and every spark of industry is treated as sacred. To dwell on a forge world is to live in devotion to the machine, where even the simplest act may be accompanied by a prayer of ignition or a hymn of assembly. Death worlds, in contrast, are hostile planets where life itself is a trial. On some, jungles choke the land, filled with venomous plants and predators large enough to swallow tanks. On others, frozen wastes stretch to the horizon, storms so fierce that steel itself freezes and shatters. Still others are blasted deserts, where firestorms scour the land. To live on such worlds is nearly impossible, yet the Imperium settles them nonetheless. Their people become hardened, fierce, and resilient. Many of the greatest regiments of the Astra Militarum hail from death worlds, their soldiers accustomed to hardship that would kill ordinary men. Then there are shrine worlds, holy planets dedicated entirely to the worship of the Emperor. Pilgrims travel from across the galaxy to walk their sacred streets, to kneel before relics, to pray in cathedrals that pierce the sky. Entire economies thrive upon this devotion, feeding and housing pilgrims who come in endless waves. To live upon a shrine world is to be steeped in faith from birth to death. Every day is marked by prayer, every action an offering. For some, this brings peace. For others, it is suffocating. Yet all understand the importance of these worlds, for they bind the Imperium together through faith as much as through war. Frontier worlds form another category, newly settled planets on the edge of the Imperium. Life here is harsh and uncertain, for protection is minimal and alien threats are constant. Colonists carve out settlements in wilderness, often clinging to survival with little more than determination. These worlds are vulnerable, but they represent the Imperium's expansion, its endless hunger for new resources and new space. To live on a frontier world is to live in both fear and hope, balancing on the edge between survival and annihilation. And finally, there are the fortress worlds. These are planets turned into bastions, their surfaces covered with fortifications, bunkers, and citadels. They guard strategic routes, warp gates, or sector capitals. Their populations live as soldiers, every child trained from birth, every adult ready for war. Entire worlds exist as walls against the enemies of the Imperium, sacrificing freedom for security. Some endure sieges that last centuries, their skies lit with fire, their land cratered beyond recognition. Yet still they endure, for to falter would be to doom countless others. Across these countless world types, life takes many forms, yet common threads bind them. Faith in the Emperor, the burden of the tithe, and the knowledge that survival is fragile. A hive worker may never meet a shrine pilgrim. A farmer may never see a forge world priest. Yet each lives beneath the same banners, prays to the same God, and contributes to the same endless war. To drift across these worlds is to see humanity in its vastness, resilient, diverse, and enduring. Some live in misery, others in splendor, but all are bound by the Imperium's grip. For in the far future, no world is free, and no life is untouched by war. To understand the Imperium's present, one must return to its greatest wound, the Horus heresy. For though 10,000 years have passed since that civil war, its scars still shape the galaxy. It was not simply a conflict of armies, but a betrayal of ideals, the breaking of bonds that should have lasted forever. It was the fall of brothers, the shattering of trust, and the moment when hope gave way to the darkness that defines the Imperium today. At the dawn of the Great Crusade, the Emperor created the Primarchs, 20 sons, each a demigod in strength and intellect, each embodying a fragment of his vision. From their genetic essence were crafted the Space Marines, mighty warriors who followed their Primarchs as sons follow fathers. Together, they brought thousands of worlds into the light of unity, forging an empire that stretched across the stars. For a time, it seemed as if nothing could stand against them. But the warp is ever watchful, and chaos whispers even to the mightiest. The Emperor's greatest son was Horus Lupercal, the War Master, chosen above all others to lead the crusade in his father's stead. Horus was beloved by his brothers, adored by his warriors, and trusted beyond measure. Yet in his pride and in his doubt, he became vulnerable. The gods of chaos saw their chance. They whispered promises of power, twisted his wounds into resentment, and showed him visions of betrayal. Slowly, Horus turned. When at last he declared his rebellion, the galaxy burned. 9 Primarchs stood with him, turning their legions against the Emperor. 9 remained loyal, holding to their father's dream. The heresy split brother from brother, legion from legion, and the greatest war in human history began. The battles of the heresy were vast and terrible. Worlds were burned, star systems destroyed, billions slain. Space Marines who had once fought side by side now slaughtered one another. On Istvan III, Horus tested his loyalties, ordering his traitor legions to purge the loyal within their own ranks. Entire companies of Space Marines were betrayed, bombarded from orbit, and left to die beneath toxic skies. Yet even there, they fought with unwavering loyalty, buying time for others to rally. On Istvan V, the betrayal deepened. Loyalist legions, Raven Guard, Iron Hands, and Salamanders launched an assault against Horus's forces, only to be abandoned by supposed allies. The Alpha Legion, the Word-Bearers, the Night Lords, and the Iron Warriors turned upon them in a carefully orchestrated trap. The massacre that followed nearly destroyed 3 loyal legions in a single day. From that moment, the galaxy knew that there could be no reconciliation. Each Primarch fell in his own way. Fulgrim of the Emperor's children was seduced by Slaanesh, his pursuit of perfection twisting into obsession with excess. Angron of the World Eaters gave himself wholly to Khorne, his rage boundless, his warriors enslaved to implants that drove them into berserk fury. Mortarion of the Death Guard surrendered to Nurgle, his bitterness finding solace in decay and endurance. Magnus of the Thousand Suns, though once a seeker of knowledge, fell to Tzeentch after a tragic attempt to warn the Emperor ended in ruin. Others betrayed for reasons more personal. Lorgar of the Word-Bearers had long worshipped the Emperor as a god, and when he was rebuked for his faith, he turned instead to the gods of chaos, building his legion into the first great cult. Perturabo of the Iron Warriors, bitter at being treated as nothing more than a siege master, embraced treachery in his resentment. Kurz of the Night Lords was consumed by his own visions of doom, believing that terror was the only truth. Alpharius and Omegon of the Alpha Legion acted in shadow, their true motives hidden even to this day. The Loyalists suffered equally. Sanguinius of the Blood Angels, noble and beloved, bore the burden of a dark flaw in his gene line, yet he fought with unmatched courage. Dorn of the Imperial Fists stood unyielding, building fortresses and defending Terra itself. Vulcan of the Salamanders embodied compassion, seeking always to protect the innocent. Corax of the Raven Guard endured betrayal and near annihilation, retreating to rebuild his shattered legion. Guilliman of the Ultramarines, ever pragmatic, held his vast realm of Ultramar together even as the galaxy burned. Russ of the Space Wolves, fierce and loyal, carried out the Emperor's harsh commands, even when they broke his heart. The war culminated in the siege of Terra. Horus brought his fleets to the cradle of humanity, laying siege to the imperial palace itself. For months, the skies above Terra burned with fire. The ground shook with bombardment, and walls that had stood for millennia cracked beneath the assault. Titans strode across shattered plains, their guns leveling spires. Demons surged through breaches in reality, howling their hatred. Legions clashed in the palace halls, brother killing brother amid blood and ruin. In the end, the Emperor himself took the field. With Sanguinius slain by Horus in single combat, the Emperor faced his favored son. Their duel was the climax of the heresy, a battle not only of strength, but of ideals. Horus, corrupted beyond redemption, struck with the fury of chaos. The Emperor, heartbroken, fought with all the power of his divinity. The battle raged across the War Master's flagship, each blow shattering steel and shaking reality. At last, the Emperor triumphed. He struck down Horus, obliterating him utterly, so that not even the gods of chaos could restore him. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Mortally wounded, the Emperor was carried to the Golden Throne, where his broken body was interred. His spirit, still alive yet trapped, became the beacon of the Astronomicon, guiding humanity but never again walking among it. The heresy ended, but its shadow remains. The traitor legions fled into the Eye of Terror, a vast warp storm where time and reality twist endlessly. From there, they waged the long war, striking at the Imperium across millennia. The loyal legions were broken into smaller chapters to prevent any single leader from holding too much power. Guilliman's Codex Astartes became law, shaping the Space Marines for all ages to come. And so, the dream of unity was lost. The Emperor's rational vision gave way to dogma, his empire to stagnation. The heresy ensured that the Imperium would never again know peace. It locked mankind into an endless cycle of suspicion, fear, and war. For if even the Emperor's most trusted sons could fall, then none are safe. 10,000 years later, the heresy is still remembered, retold in liturgy and propaganda, in warnings and myths. To the faithful, it is proof of the Emperor's godhood, for he triumphed even over chaos. To the heretics, it is inspiration, proof that even gods can bleed. And to those who seek truth, it is tragedy, the moment when hope died. The galaxy that remains is one built upon the ashes of that war, still haunted by the fall of the Primarchs. Their legions, whether loyal or traitor, still shape the fate of the stars. Their choices echo still, carried forward by their sons, their enemies, and their broken father upon the Golden Throne. Though the Horus heresy ended with the Emperor's victory and Horus's death, the war it began has never truly ended. 10,000 years later, the traitor legions remain, their banners unfurled in defiance, their fleets striking from the shadows of the warp. This is the long war, a struggle without end, waged not for conquest alone, but for vengeance, corruption, and the very souls of mankind. It is the war that defines the Imperium, for it ensures that peace will never come, that every generation will know only struggle. The traitor legions who fled into the Eye of Terror are not merely remnants. They are vast hosts of warriors, demons, and renegades, bound to the chaos gods. Within the eye, time itself twists. Years may pass as moments, or moments stretch into centuries. This strange immortality has allowed the traitors to endure for millennia. Some of them, like Abaddon the Despoiler, have risen as champions who lead crusades against the Imperium again and again. Others have been swallowed by madness, their legions fragmented into warbands, their loyalty given not to their primarchs, but to the whims of chaos. Abaddon stands foremost among them. Once the first captain of the sons of Horus, he took command after the death of his primarch. Refusing to let Horus's name define his legion, he rechristened them the Black Legion, gathering warriors from every fallen chapter. For centuries, he has launched Black Crusades, vast campaigns from the Eye of Terror that lash out across the Imperium. Some were small, others galaxy-shaking, but all were reminders that chaos never rests. To many within the Imperium, Abaddon has become a figure of dread, whispered of as the Archfiend, the War Master of Chaos. Each Chaos Legion carries its own mark. The World Eaters, once noble warriors, are now berserkers, their minds shackled by implants that drive them into endless rage. They hurl themselves into battle heedless of wounds, offering skulls to Khorne. The Emperor's children, once seekers of perfection, now revel in corruption, their senses stretched to impossible extremes by the gifts of Slaanesh. Their battles are not only wars, but symphonies of torment, fought with shrieks of ecstasy and terror. The Death Guard, under Mortarion, march as armies of rot. They are hosts of plague and decay, their bodies bloated, their armor corroded, yet nothing can kill them. They spread Nurgle's gifts across worlds, leaving pestilence in their wake. The Thousand Sons, once scholars and sorcerers, now walk as living storms of sorcery, their ranks filled with dust-bound warriors whose souls are trapped in armor, serving Tzeentch even in eternal silence. Other legions, too, play their part in this endless war. The Iron Warriors wage sieges without mercy, turning fortresses into tombs. The Night Lords sow terror wherever they strike, their goal not conquest, but fear itself. The Word-Bearers spread the faith of chaos, building dark cults and summoning demons through ritual and sacrifice. The Alpha Legion moves in shadow, their true purpose unknown, their actions sometimes seeming to aid chaos, sometimes to hinder it, their loyalties impossible to untangle. This war is not fought only in open battle. Chaos spreads like a poison in whispers and shadows. Cults arise on imperial worlds, promising hope where there is none, power to the weak, freedom to the oppressed. To join such a cult may seem harmless at first. Simple gatherings, secret prayers, small rituals. But slowly, the corruption deepens. Blood sacrifices are demanded, oaths sworn, demons invoked. By the time the Inquisition discovers them, many such cults have spread through entire cities, their roots too deep to cut without fire. For this reason, the Imperium lives in constant paranoia. To trust one's neighbor is dangerous, for anyone may harbor heretical thoughts. Families betray one another, priests denounce their congregations, soldiers watch their comrades as closely as they do their enemies. The Inquisition fans these fears, for vigilance is survival. Yet in such an atmosphere, fear becomes a weapon of chaos itself, eroding trust and weakening unity. The long war also shapes the warp. Each battle, each death, feeds the gods. When billions die in rage, Khorne's power swells. When civilizations collapse into despair, Nurgle grows. When ambition or sorcery is pursued, Tzeentch laughs. When cruelty and indulgence reign, Slaanesh feeds. Thus, every war is not merely a conflict of arms, but of souls. To fight chaos is to struggle not only on the battlefield, but within the heart. Still, the Imperium endures. Its armies stand eternal watch. Its fleets patrol the stars. Its inquisitors strike down heresy where they find it. The Grey Knights, hidden even from other space marines, continue their secret war against demons. The Sisters of Battle, militant arm of the ecclesiarchy, burn heresy with bolter and flame. The Astra Militarum fights on countless fronts, its soldiers giving their lives in endless numbers to hold back chaos tides. And yet, despite all this, chaos is never defeated. Even when a Black Crusade is thrown back, even when cults are purged, even when demons are banished, the threat remains. For chaos is not an enemy that can be slain. It is born from the warp itself, from the emotions of mortals. To destroy chaos would require the destruction of sentient life itself, for as long as there is rage, despair, desire, or ambition, the gods endure. This is the true horror of the Long War, that it has no end. Every victory is temporary, every defeat a wound that feeds the enemy. The Imperium does not fight to win, but simply to survive. Its goal is not triumph, but endurance. And in this lies the great tragedy of humanity, that even in its might, even with its armies and its faith, it cannot escape the shadow of its own nature. The Long War is not only a struggle of weapons, it is also a war of symbols, of faiths, of truths. Chaos offers promises that the Imperium cannot. Where the Imperium offers oppression, chaos offers freedom, though it is a freedom that devours. Where the Imperium offers faith in a distant, silent God, chaos offers gods that speak, that grant power, that reward devotion. To many, these promises are irresistible, and so the cycle continues, as worlds rise and fall, as generations live and die, caught in a war they cannot escape. And yet, against all odds, the Imperium endures. The Emperor's light still burns. Faint though it may be, humanity still fights, still resists, still clings to hope even in the face of despair. This endurance is its victory. For though chaos cannot be destroyed, neither can it destroy mankind. 10,000 years of war have not broken the Imperium. Perhaps 10,000 more will not either. In this endless balance, the galaxy spins. Chaos strikes, the Imperium resists, the war continues. It is the heartbeat of the far future, the rhythm that defines every life. And as long as humanity endures, so too will the Long War, fought not for victory, but for survival. Though chaos is the Imperium's most insidious foe, it is far from the only threat that besets mankind. The galaxy is a vast and hostile place, filled with powers ancient and new, each of them deadly in its own way. Where chaos corrupts from within, these others strike from without. Vast hordes, ancient empires, and hungering swarms that care nothing for human faith or ambition. To know the Imperium is to know that it stands not only against demons, but against an entire universe that seems determined to erase it. Among these foes, the orcs are perhaps the most persistent. To outsiders, they might seem brutish or even comical. Green-skinned warriors who bellow in crude tongues, cobble together weapons from scrap, and hurl themselves into battle with reckless joy. But to underestimate them is to court disaster. Orcs are born for war. Violence is their nature, their society, and their purpose. They live in tribes, gather into war bands, and spread across the stars like spores, their numbers endless. Where they appear, peace is impossible. An orc invasion is unlike any other. They require no supply lines, no logistics. Their weapons are crude, but somehow effective. Their ships should not fly. Their machines should not function, and yet they do, powered by a strange psychic field born from the orc's collective belief. To an orc, if something is painted red, it is faster. If a gun looks dangerous, it is more deadly. And through sheer numbers and raw aggression, they overwhelm even the most disciplined armies. The Imperium has fought orcs since its earliest days, and though countless worlds have been purged, the orcs always return. For every one that falls, 100 spores take root, growing into more warriors. They cannot be exterminated, only endured. If the orcs are endless, the Tyranids are inevitable. Unlike orcs, they are not a species in the usual sense, but an extragalactic swarm, a hunger-given flesh. They descend upon galaxies like locusts, consuming every scrap of biomass, plants, animals, people, even microorganisms, until a world is nothing but barren rock. The Tyranids do not fight for conquest, or glory, or even survival. They fight to feed, and their hunger has no end. A Tyranid hive fleet is a living organism. Its ships are creatures. Its weapons are grown rather than built. Even its smallest warriors are bioengineered predators, tailored for speed, strength, or resilience. Some are swarms of scuttling beasts, others towering monstrosities, all controlled by the hive mind, a vast psychic presence that guides them as one. To face the Tyranids is to fight against nature itself, sharpened to a killing edge. And no matter how many are slain, more pour forth, for the swarm adapts, mutates, and evolves. A weapon that works once may fail the next time. A defense that holds for a day will crumble tomorrow. Worlds consumed by Tyranids vanish utterly. Their oceans are drained, their mountains stripped, their atmospheres leached away. Nothing is left but dust. For the Imperium, the arrival of even a single hive fleet is a nightmare, demanding entire sectors to unite in resistance. But even then, victory is hollow. For while one hive fleet is destroyed, more stir in the void beyond the galaxy, drawn by the psychic beacon of the warp. Humanity does not know how many there are, only that they are vast and that they are coming. If the Tyranids represent hunger, the Necrons embody silence. They are an ancient race, older even than the Eldar, and their story begins in the dawn of time. Once they were mortal beings, frail and short-lived, consumed by bitterness at their weakness. In their desperation, they bargained with beings of cosmic power, the Khitan, star gods who devoured suns. The Necrontyre, as they were then known, traded their souls for immortality and were remade as machines. Their flesh was stripped away, their minds bound in bodies of living metal. Thus they became the Necrons, undying, merciless, and eternal. For millions of years, they slumbered in tombs buried deep beneath countless worlds. Now they awaken, one dynasty after another, their lords rising to reclaim what they see as their rightful dominion. Their weapons are terrifying in their precision, stripping molecules apart or disintegrating flesh with a glance. Entire armies vanish in moments, their bodies reduced to dust. The Necrons do not feel hunger or rage or joy. They march with perfect silence, driven by an ancient will to erase all who stand in their path. To face the Necrons is to fight inevitability. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be corrupted. They do not tire, and they do not die in the way mortals do. Even when destroyed, their bodies often phase away, reassembling elsewhere. A battle won against them may mean nothing, for the same warriors will rise again in another place, another time. What drives them is uncertain. Some seek to restore their empire, others to annihilate life itself. But whatever their aim, they are among the most implacable of humanity's foes. Beyond these, other enemies stir in the darkness. The Eldar, though diminished, remain a force to be reckoned with. Their craft worlds drifting through the void, their warriors striking with deadly grace. They see humanity as crude and dangerous, a species too reckless to survive. Yet their own decline forces them into uneasy alliances or sudden betrayals. The Dark Eldar, by contrast, dwell in the webway city of Kamara, preying upon mortals for slaves and suffering, feeding on agony to stave off their own doom. Even stranger are the Tau, a young race with dreams of empire. They speak of unity, of a greater good, and for some, their vision seems almost noble. Their technology is advanced, their diplomacy seductive. Some human worlds have even defected to their cause. Yet beneath the veneer of idealism lies control, for the Tau's society is rigid, its freedom limited, its harmony enforced. The Imperium sees them as heretics, another Xenos species to be crushed. The Tau see the Imperium as archaic, brutal, and blind. Between them lies a gulf that no words can bridge, and still there are more. The Rak Gol, feral marauders who stalk the edges of known space. The Hrud, mysterious and ancient, their presence warping time itself. The enslavers, psychic predators who slip through the warp to seize minds and spread like plagues. Each of these may seem small compared to chaos, orcs, or tyrannids, yet each represents another wound, another drain on the Imperium's strength. What unites all these threats is that they are ceaseless. There is no respite, no pause, no hope of diplomacy or truce. The galaxy does not want humanity to survive. Every frontier is a battlefield, every border a war zone. To be a citizen of the Imperium is to live under the shadow of annihilation, not only from within, but from every corner of the stars. And yet, this endless storm is what defines the Imperium itself. It is a realm forged in fire, tempered by suffering, held together by war. Without these enemies, perhaps humanity would grow soft, complacent, even free. But with them, it is locked in struggle, sharpened into something harder, crueler, and perhaps more enduring. The enemies of mankind may be countless, but in resisting them, mankind finds its grim purpose. So the wars go on. Orcs gather for their next great Wah. Tyrannid fleets drift closer from the void. Necron tombs stir beneath unsuspecting worlds, and countless others lurk in the shadows. The Imperium stands against them all, not because it can win, but because it must. In the grim darkness of the far future, survival itself is victory. In the end, the story of the Warhammer 40,000 universe is not a tale of victory. It is not a saga of heroes triumphing over evil, nor of civilizations rising to golden ages. It is, instead, a meditation on endurance. Humanity exists in a galaxy filled with nightmares, its borders gnawed by alien hungers, its worlds threatened by heresy within, and its very soul contested by gods beyond reason. And yet, humanity persists. That persistence, grim and unyielding, is the true miracle of the Imperium. To live in the Imperium is to live in a prison built of faith and fear. Each citizen is born into duty, their place defined by birth, their choices narrowed to labor, worship, or war. And yet, within this harsh order, there is a kind of stability. The Hive City may be oppressive, but it endures. The manufactorum may grind its workers down, but it produces the weapons that keep mankind alive. Even the cruelty of the Inquisition serves a purpose. scouring away corruption before it can spread too far. It is a society without kindness, but with a kind of desperate function. In the depths of space, the Astronomicon continues to burn, its psychic light stretching across the stars. Countless ships navigate by its glow. Countless lives depend on its radiance. Yet this beacon is not eternal. It is powered by the Emperor himself, bound to the golden throne. His body is a corpse, his soul a blazing inferno that refuses to extinguish. 10,000 years he has endured, neither alive nor dead, a god in truth, if not in form. His worshippers see him as eternal, unchanging, perfect. His priests proclaim him the savior of humanity. But those who look more closely see the cracks. The machinery of the throne falters. The sacrifices required grow greater each year. The emperor endures, but only just. It is this fragility that defines the galaxy. The Imperium is mighty, but brittle. Its armies are vast, but stretched thin. Its faith is strong, but often blind. Every victory it claims comes at a terrible cost, and every world saved is only temporarily secured. There is no final triumph in this age, no peace on the horizon. There is only the endless march of war, the ceaseless tide of enemies, the eternal battle for survival. And yet, within this bleakness, there are moments of strange beauty. A space marine, forged in pain and fire, may give his life not for glory, but to save a single child. A guardsman, faceless among millions, may stand his ground on a wall of a forgotten city, buying just one more day for the refugees behind him. A sister of battle may light a candle in the ruins of a cathedral, her hymns rising softly above the noise of war. These small acts, meaningless on the galactic scale, shine with a fragile light. They are the moments that remind us that even in the darkest future, humanity has not lost all traces of hope. Hope, in truth, is the rarest resource of all. It is not nurtured by the Imperium, which thrives on obedience and fear. It is not given by chaos, which twists hope into lies and chains. It is not offered by the Xenos, who see humanity as prey or rivals. Hope survives only in the hearts of individuals, in the whispered prayer of a mother for her child, in the courage of soldiers who stand though they know they will fall, in the stubborn will of entire worlds that refuse to surrender. It is hope that gives humanity the strength to endure, even when reason says it should already be dead. And so the galaxy spins on, caught in its endless cycle. The long war continues. The orcs gather for their next great wah. The Tyranids drift closer from the void beyond the stars. The Necrons wake from their tombs. The Tau expand their empire. The Eldar dance on the knife edge of extinction. Chaos festers in the hearts of mortals, and the Imperium, battered and bleeding, still holds the line. In this, the universe of Warhammer 40,000 is unlike most stories we tell ourselves. There are no heroes who will save the day, no final battles that will bring peace. There is only war. And yet there is something strangely comforting in this. For if the Imperium can endure 10,000 years of horror, if its people can cling to survival against odds so overwhelming, then perhaps endurance itself is victory. Perhaps survival, no matter how hard won, is enough. And as you listen now, in the quiet of your own thoughts, perhaps you can let the vastness of this universe wash over you. Imagine the stars, uncountable and cold, each one a beacon of life or a fortress of war. Imagine the great fleets moving between them, silent in the void, bearing armies to battles they will not return from. Imagine the whispers of chaos, faint and insidious, carried on currents of the warp. Imagine the resilience of humanity, standing against it all, refusing to be broken. Let these images drift like echoes in your mind, not to frighten, but to calm. For the darkness of Warhammer's future, vast as it is, can also be a reminder of perspective. No matter how great the war, no matter how endless the struggle, there is always a moment of stillness, a heartbeat of silence before the next storm. And in that silence, there can be rest. So let the wars fade, for now. Let the clash of bolters and the roar of orcs fall quiet. Let the whispers of the warp recede, distant and unreal. In their place, let there be only calm. The calm of a drifting ship between the stars. The calm of a candle burning in a cathedral's ruins. The calm of your own breath, steady and sure. For though Warhammer is a universe of eternal struggle, tonight it can be simply a story, a dark and endless dream that you can set aside. The galaxy will still turn, the battles will still rage, humanity will still endure, but you, for this moment, can rest. Close your eyes and imagine the stars stretching above you, infinite and eternal. Imagine the silence of the void, deep and soothing. Imagine yourself drifting there, safe, calm, and untroubled. For in this vast and terrible universe, even amidst eternal war, there is always a place for sleep, for peace, for dreams. And as the story fades, so too may your thoughts. Let them drift, let them slow, let them settle. The galaxy is vast, the wars are endless, but for now, there is nothing you need to do, only rest, only silence, only sleep.